as to what's the difference
Agents
between
are
them?
always tooting. Agents are always tooting their horn on making their owners money, but here is an example of how that can happen and how it did happen for a lovely owner we have in DY. Stay tuned for the. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, making an owner an extra $200K in 7 days. How is this possible? Mark, good morning.
Good. It sounds like a bunch of rubbish marketing splurge, but this is a real true story, a tale of a sale that we want to share. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. And there's a couple components to it. It's one reason why I love commercial property. It's very different to residential. You don't necessarily, morning, Jeff, you don't necessarily need to wait for market conditions, capital growth to make your owners money. Being a great agent can make your owner money, and having the right strategies and knowing what to do, when to do it as well, and advising them correctly. So we're talking about a shop in DY, Howard Avenue. It was vacant for 7 months. The owners, COVID really affected it, as you can imagine, a retail shop on the main street.
What was it operating as before?
Operating as a clothing shop. So they had no special medical approvals or anything like that someone could leverage the timing in. But so they really had to go under the existing, because councils weren't really open anyway for approval. So it was basically stuck vacant for 7 months.
And the owners tried to sell it for 7 months, or they tried to rent it for 7 months?
Majority of the time was leasing, and then they, as a lot of owners do, they said, well, we'll just try and sell it. We'll sell it.
And how much was the rent?
It was previously rented for, it was about $50K a year, $50K net. Outgoing is $9,000, and then there was some additional parking, so $50K a year.
So then vacant, what was the word vacant? So what happened? Tell us the deal. Tell us the spiel.
So vacant, they had an offer of, it was about $700,000, maybe $710. It was through another agent who obviously wanted the sale and really wanted them to sell it and take the offer of $700,000. Ironically, I had a tenant call me about another property for lease around the corner. I said, well, this property would probably be better for you. And they go, oh, we called the other agent and they said the owner just wants to sell it, doesn't want to lease it. And I was like, what? So they show you through the property? Did they get any information from you? And she goes, no, they sort of just said that was it. And I go, well, leave it with me. I'll get you through it if you really want that, because they really wanted that property. They were like, it ticked all our boxes, but the agent just said no. I said, let's get you through. And she goes, I don't want to waste my time. I go, no, you won't be wasting your time. I know the owners really well. And if you really want to lease the property, I'm very, very confident I can make it work for you. And she goes, okay. So we show her through. She goes, yeah, because you could see everything from the glass window. So she really wanted the property in the location. So I said, great, this is where the offer would need to be to rent it. She goes, I'm happy to pay that. So I called the owners and I was like, great news, I've got a tenant for you. And they're like, oh, we just want to sell it. And I go, I understand that, but there is a big difference between selling an asset vacant and selling an asset tenanted. I said to the owners,
here, this is the golden piece of advice that you're giving to a client right here, right now, that's going to make them potentially $200,000. So
Yeah.
just to position it, that it was going to be sold by another agent, 710 grand vacant. Just to position it, you pushed in right at the last minute a really good rental on the property. What sort of business was it?
They did aged care, so they're down in Howard Avenue. They will arrange carers to go to the home, wash, clean, shopping with seniors.
So
So
you wedged those
make
guys
it work.
into the property, and it was perfect for them. And what sort of rent were they willing to pay?
So they 48,000 a year plus outgoing. So it was a pre-COVID rent. It was a great rent on a good lease term, ready to move quickly.
And in this sale, this was only a month or two ago that this was happening. So this is all recent stuff. And then we're going to come to the climax of the story in a second.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Yeah. So, and the owners pushed back again. They're like, no, we don't want to lease it. We just want it sold. I'm like, but if I go, would you wait an extra couple of weeks for 200 grand? They're like, oh, I go, that's what I'm asking you to do. You wait a couple of weeks. We get this lease done, I'll be able to sell it for X amount. Like, fair enough. I'm sure the other agent called them and said, hey, would you lease it? And they've said no. But if you don't know the value for that client, like the client didn't know the value. That's why they have us as agents. And well, that's why they think they're getting professional advisors to advise them on the pros and cons of a deal. Like, don't get me wrong. If the tenant was offering $20,000 a year, and on a yield that would put the property at 500K, then I wouldn't be pushing for this. But when you've got a tenant ready to go, who's ready to go, offering a great amount of money that an investor would love that tenant. Because what I realized, Mark, during COVID, and we've done shows on this previously, buyers were very selective on tenants. If they presumed they were lockdown proof, medical lawyers, and this aged care medical tenant ticked those boxes. So I had the confidence that we would be able to sell it to an investor because it would be a new lease. It's a great property. No one's talking about that, but a good lease, ground.
Opposite Meriton, DY.
Yeah.
And I think also what's important for anyone who's just tuning in, what we're talking about is advice that can directly make an owner 200 grand from a great real estate agent. We're going through the true story that's happened in the last couple of weeks, and it started a couple of months ago. And for anyone who's a bit green on this, commercial properties sale prices are directly indexed off their rent prices. So if you can get a good rental, it can actually jump your price quite a lot. Back over to you.
Yeah, it's insane. So, it's like So then once I sort of went through it with the owner, a couple of phone calls, a couple of talking through it, because they haven't bought and sold a lot of commercial property. Yes, they've owned it for 20 years, but it's sort of been a set and forget asset. But it really took me relaying the advantage of it, but also then showing the deals I've traded to give them reassurance as much as so long story short, they're like, okay, so they were exchanging with that other buyer on the day. Well, the conversation was
10,000.
Yeah, 400 days prior, but obviously you don't want to burn a deal till you've got another deal ready. They had a great lawyer, which is hats off to them. Because before they said no to the other buyer, I had done the application, I'd gotten a bond and deposit, 5 months rent up front. Normally you get that sort of on the lease signing, but I sort of explained the tenant knew the situation. She was very eager for this property. Keep in mind, the other agent said no, not possible. So she was happy. She was great. She was working with me. So we got 5 months rent upon offering acceptance, signed heads of agreement, application, everything ready to go. They're sent it off. And I really explained to her any delay, like a lawyer will just always send questions off to be a hero. Well, to get their money worth. I don't want to say that way. But I said to her, you won't have time for any of that. Any of that will cost you the deal any of that you won't get it. As much as sometimes you want your lawyer to send little questions just in your interest, but this is the time that, unless it's going to cost you your firstborn child, you just sign the lease and what you're signing.
Anything. So
you know
any small clause changes just would have blown up the whole deal. So it just wasn't even worth having those conversations. But lawyers don't know that unless they're brought into the picture. And so you brought them into the picture and said, don't blow it up, don't blow it up.
Yes. So we got everything to the lawyer. The owner's lawyer was amazing. Got the lease back, I think, same day or the next day.
Who was the owner's lawyer?
Albert, Mag and Co. They're in Castlereagh Street, City. So nice. They were phenomenal. City. They got the lease back to the tenant, as she said she would. She signed it straight away. She had done a few deals in the rentals in the past, so she had a quick read of it, read it. We got it back to the owner. Once the owner saw the bond, the deposit, the signed lease, everything, she was happy to go back and say to the other buyer, sorry, but would you increase to this?
So the owner said no to the sale of 710, and they said yes to the tenant of 49,000 per year plus outgoings.
Correct.
So they lost the sale, but they gained a rental. But now where's the magic here?
Then the magic is, I've got a lot of clients on my database who have a specific criteria of a minimum a 3-year lease, minimum 6% net yield, and if you tick those boxes, they're ready to buy it. So reached out to the database, reached out to a great buyer's agent. I work with Helen, does a lot of deals for commercial clients, and they're sort of her criteria. So we're able to get her. She brought 3 clients through. I had clients. We actually had 3 buyers offering on it, and they were all well above. One was 850, one was 870, one was 880, and we do a deal at 900. So all within basically a week. It'd take a little bit longer to do the due diligence, but basically a week. We get that done.
The owner's going to sell the property for $190,000 less vacant. You advise them not to take the vacant deal. You presented them with a wonderful tenant, which then you presented them with an offer of $190,000 more a week or two after.
Yes, and the recommendation not to take it was after one. Just to clear it up with people, so I wasn't all just thinking telling me I needed to blow up a deal before I had the deal. The initial conversation was, especially when they were like, no, we don't want to lease it. It was, well, we at least let me run the process, see how strong this tenant is. Your buyers, you weren't scheduled to exchange because this was so everyone's come back from Christmas break. And sort of the initial part of the deal was first couple of weeks of Jan. So the other agent was still on holidays for one. The buyer had paid the deposit, but they hadn't signed the contract. They were going to do that in 4 days. So I just sort of said to the owner, give us the 4 days to get this rock solid for you before you blow up a deal. And we did.
And that is
static. They're so happy.
And that is how.
You break up a bit.
With good advice, good strategy, can one of the many. I'm constantly witnessing these sort of deals being done by good strategy and good advice. We haven't just had some off the plan stuff. We've instantly made the developer millions of dollars with some great advice and balls. You've got to have, we've
just referencing
a good agent's got to not only have the strategy but the balls to actually have that discussion with the client, because sometimes it's a hard discussion with a client,
Mark, and also the conscious because we're putting, especially with the off the plan, we basically took 30 listings off our plate, but it was in the best interest of the owner as well. You've always got to have that mindset. If you do that, the money will come. Like, Mark, you've been doing this, 20 odd years. I've still got 40, 50 years of a career to go. As long as you give people genuine good advice, work in their best interest, the money will come. And it's great, these stories where you can single-handedly be like, well, like, you know what I mean? But you can be like, that advice, that owner would not have gotten there on their own. Sometimes in residential, the market's so hot, it's just like putting a for sale sign out there. And you know that there's good agents, but it's hard to pinpoint because you really only get one agent. You never get your time over, is sort of what in residential. So you can think
that's the tail of the sale. That's the tail of the sale.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll be back tomorrow.
Look at this beautiful city that we live in after all this flooding. Look at this beautiful city that we live in.
Wait, let me do a big screen.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. The big smoke this morning. After this torrential flooding and rain and rubbish that we've had, we've got this freshly washed city.
Yeah. All righty. Thanks, everyone. Jeff.
Take care. See you, mate.